Well, hello. Welcome to another episode of Coach's Corner. We are here with Kirsten Gum today. My name is Tara Ann of Primal Health, and I have Kirsten Gum here with us today, veteran TV host turned corporate wellness. And she's
Yes.
also her own CEO of Live Forward Coaching. So we have a beautiful group that's coming in right now. I see the people hopping on. For
Awesome.
those that are here, actually, I'm just going to manage this briefly. Okay, we've got more and more people coming in. If you'd like to share where you're visiting from so we can feel the community and build the container that we are here to serve. Kirsten and I are
Yes.
both big fans of Primal Health, and it's been a
Yes.
foundation for both of us. So,
Yeah.
as people still begin to come, I just want to give them a minute. Hannah's here from Chicago. We've got 20 people joining us. This is great. I'm in Honolulu. Kirsten, you know what? I think it is a perfect time. Tell us a little bit about yourself. Where are you, and what brought you to Primal Health?
Well, isn't this beautiful that it's full circle for us, Tara Ann? Because Tara Ann was actually the person who got me involved with Primal Health. We have been friends for a long time. I was living on Maui at the moment, and she was in Honolulu. And I was having a really bad bout with menopause and was trying to get to the heart of the matter. So I am now in Charlotte, North Carolina, but it started many years ago. She's the one who got me really interested in health coaching. So I thank you. I
Oh,
thank you because it has really served and took me right to my passion and my purpose. And I absolutely love what I do each and every day. It's odd how much it lights me up. But I've always known since I was young that I am here to serve, and that is my passion purpose. And I love gaining new knowledge, and I always love passing it on to the masses. And I firmly believe that we just help those who are ready to be helped, moving in the direction of thriving in this human experience.
yeah. Thriving in this human experience.
Yeah.
Well, we're in good company. We have nearly a quarter of people we've got Pennsylvania, we've got UK, we've got
Awesome.
Winnipeg, Chicago,
Right
New
on.
Mexico. We've got a global community here today. And as always, I want you to know that whether you're in the chat or in the question box, I'll go ahead and handle that. And Kirsten and I will share, storylines, and we want you all to, put in your questions. We want this to be a live engagement and a community discussion. So,
Yeah.
Kirsten, will you take us back to what was it like when you first, we're taking your course? Because a lot of the community here, they're in the course right now,
Oh,
and they're
awesome.
looking to other health coaches. What have you done with this? How did it work? What
Yeah.
happened next? So tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, well, I want to applaud all of you for being in the program. Health coaching is coming on with a fury, and many people need you, and it is gaining ground so very quickly. And I really feel like we're this army of health coaches that are coming into the world going, we got you,
Yeah.
right? We're here to help. We know what we need to do. We know that you need lifestyle changes. I mean, let's just face it, right? We have a medical system out there that isn't the greatest. We've got some lots of issues with it, but if we just take it down to the simple form, it is sick care at this moment, and people are starting to realize it and they just don't know what to do. And that's where we come in. So, after getting out of Primal Quest, excuse me, that's my adventure racing days coming in, but Primal Health Coaching, right, with Mark Sisson. Um, I really didn't know how it worked, right? I was like, okay, I'm going to own my own business. And I started getting clients, and I loved that part. And I was in Arizona at the time, and it was actually right during COVID. I was getting clients, and it worked out beautifully because I could see people and, help them in the pool. I'm a yoga instructor, I'm a meditation facilitator, I work with breath work as well. So I was able to take all of my skills and wisdom and morph them into one and really work with people one on one, not just in Arizona, but via Zoom as well. I soon realized, though, that I really needed to uh, really meet people where they were and get out there a little bit more. So I made the decision, and not everybody makes the decision, but I made the decision that, hey, I'm not sure that my genius area is owning my own business and staying on one-on-one health coaching. I feel like I'm better if I reach out and start working with doctors and really like spread it out. Because what I see is that there is this hole in our medical system, right? So a doctor gives a diagnosis, you got to lose weight, lower that blood pressure, right? And they send people off, and people are like, what do I do? Right. And then they go to Dr. Google, and then it gets really scary because they're hitting worst case scenarios and all sorts of things. And that's where we walk in and we say, hey, we work in behavioral medicine, and we can work
Mhm.
right alongside you as a doctor and you as a patient. And we're going to hold your hand and we're going to hold you accountable. And we can take the time to really work with you day in and day out. And so I decided, hey, I'm going to go for it. I'm going to work for a different company. At the time, so I still had my own business, I still had my own private coaching, but I decided I was going to work with some other companies. And so I started reaching out, and I've worked with quite a few different corporate companies. I'm currently with the Health Institute, which is with Dr. Josh Axe and Dr. Will Cole. Yeah, it has been lovely. I love what I do. We have a great group of practitioners there. And it has been a journey over this last, I don't know, 7, 8, 9, maybe 9 years or so that we've been at this. And I have never looked back, right?
Well, what's it like? What's it like in that setting?
Yeah. So, it's everybody has to make that decision. And a lot went into that decision, but I think it was the best thing for me. Um, you work with high volume, so you really get your rounds, right? You really get the experience, and from there, that I will say is absolutely where I grew. Now I could take my energy that I put on a bunch of marketing, right, and I didn't have to think about that, right? My private company, my private clients, they come very organically, right? Usually it's word of mouth, and I really keep it to only 10 private clients because I have contracts with several other companies, and
Yeah.
I don't want to work 80-hour weeks. I work 55, right? So somewhere in there. Um, but you get your feet wet, and from there, you grow into who you want to be as a health coach. And I think that's really, really important. So, first of all, you got to get logistics down, right? There's a lot of moving parts when you work for another company. You need to be very up on all the software. So if you don't know what Slack is, you need to know what Slack is, right? There's internal communication. You need to know what client management systems are in. You need to know what Google Suites are. You really need to know your way around a computer, right? And know your software. And there's lots of Google like videos out there, and
Mhm.
every company uses something different. But once you get the gist of having lots of screens open and being able to maneuver yourself around, it gets really easy. So I do a majority of my health coaching on Zoom.
Mhm.
I also work for a company where I go into businesses. And so I do one on one coaching that way. And I also do webinars for other companies that go nationwide. So there's many different facets in corporate wellness. And I'm still trying to figure out which one I like the most. Right.
There
So
we
I
go.
have my hands in a lot of different pots, and I like it this way. It changes it up for me. Right. It
This is
changes up the day.
fantastic. Well, thank you for slowing down with us. And I just want to, touch into the community because it's so valuable to hear how you first went after, what many of us, believe we're going into business for ourselves. And you
Yeah.
said, look, this is one way and I like this. And how might I join a team? Because there's certain things about being a solopreneur, maybe you liked,
Yeah.
maybe you didn't like, and
Yeah.
then joining a team. And what I heard you say is that you could replace all of that energy that you were spending on marketing. So I hear that as by joining a team, the company is bringing in the clients. And when I hear you say taking a heavy load, but also getting your reps in, I just want to make sure everybody understands that means she's seeing clients back to back all day. Will you tell us a little bit what that is like?
Yes, yes. So, I have learned some valuable lessons. I have burned myself out a couple different times because, when you first come into this, and we all did it, right? Like,
Right.
I remember thinking like, "Oh, I'm gonna see 10 clients a day, 12 clients a day. I can get 12 clients a day in, 12 times 5, 60 clients a week. I'm gonna do it," right? Wipe that clean, right?
Yeah.
What we do is very emotionally taxing because we're holding space for people and we're getting into their shizzle, if you will, and we're getting curious and we're not there to be friends, right? We're there to really poke in some of the hard spots and do it with compassion, with so much compassion. So it takes so much focus and so much energy when you're with a client that you need the break. And I'm fortunate enough that I have contracts with companies where they get it. They get it. They don't want you going back to back to back to back. So I will talk just present moment. I have a half an hour in between each of my calls. So I have worked with companies that were like, you get 10 minutes. 10
Mm.
minutes is not enough because
Mhm.
then by the end of the day, if you've had how many clients and then you're trying to work with all your admin at the end, and some people choose to do that, I start to go like, I can't remember who this person was or what we talked about, right?
What do
Because
you
it's now
have?
8 o'clock at night and I've had so many conversations and I've been so focused with my active listening skills and asked all these questions. And I'm taking notes at the same time. Right. I'm typing away at the same time, but that can be really, really hard. So you want to go with a company that understands what coaching is about, and sometimes you have to stand up and be like, I'm burned out. And I've actually just recently did that with one of my directors. I said, hey, I need to close my books. Like, I got some very demanding clients and I need a break. They're taking a little bit longer for me to research certain things for them and getting them support and resources. So it's doable and you have to hold your healthy boundaries for sure, right? Because you got to take care of you. Just like what we preach as coaches, right? Put your oxygen mask on first. You can never forget that. You can never forget that. You need that. So, my day consists of, on an average, I teach yoga in the mornings. That's part of something that I do that I love and lights me up in a different way. Let's see. I get up, I teach yoga. I'm up at 5. I teach yoga. I work out. I fight traffic. I come back home. I sit down and I really set my day. So I take about a half an hour or an hour to set up my day. That means opening up different screens, getting my clients on the screens, starting to type notes in of what I want to ask them, or I have created my own templates of things that I want to ask. So it's a lot of copy paste of like, okay, this is where we are with this person. This is what I'm going to ask them. Got to figure out, what their SMART goal was, how they did on that. Make sure to really set your mind. And so I start to open up all these different screens and I will have 20 screens open. So I usually have I have 3 screens and I have notes down here so I can keep eye contact, right? And I always let them know that I'm taking notes too, because I think it's rude to be taking notes and they don't feel like you're listening. So
Mhm.
taking notes, but I also need to make sure that I'm looking at time, staying on time, and looking at what else might be coming in or what else I can get for them as far as resources. So I do a prep for half an hour to an hour, depending on the day. And then I start from 10 and I take clients from 10 until 6. On certain days, I have my own private clients. So I have blocked out certain days. For instance, Thursday mornings are all my private clients, along with some on Saturdays and Sundays. So you pick and choose where you put things in and make them work for you. I'm fortunate enough that I'm a contract, right? A contract person, which means no, I don't get any benefits. And yes, I got to save for taxes, right? All of mine are contracts that I run through my personal business. Okay, so I'm a sole proprietorship. I decided to stay this way for at least another year. Then I may go into an LLC or an S Corp or something like that, but I'm a sole proprietorship. These are my contracts that I have, and I really learned about contracts and what was considered contractual and what is considered an employee. And I would urge everybody to make sure that they understand both. Right.
Thank
There's
you
a
so
lot of
much for that.
people, yeah, a
Yeah.
lot of people using remote workers, and you need to know your rights, right? You need to know what they can ask of you and what they cannot ask of you.
Oh, that's great, Kirsten. And I'm having a memory of flashback to when we were both in the primal health coaching, level one certification course, and we were like, which payment program do we do, Stripe or
Totally.
Square? And like comparing those and just how
Totally.
far. I mean, look at you go. And I mean, you sound, I mean, community, would you agree? Like Kirsten, you sound like a go-getter. You have your calendar dialed in, like you have, experimented, you've been finding what works for you. It's very focused. I mean, this is not willy-nilly. And I gotta ask, like, what happens when you want to take your show on the road? Oftentimes people think, oh, I'm a health coach. I'm
I
gonna
can
be able
go
to
anywhere.
travel. I can go anywhere. What's that like for you?
Yeah, so I do have myself backed in a little bit of a corner because I have so many different contracts. Um, so when I am going to travel, again, I'm in charge of my own schedule, and that is part of the freedom that I love as being a contract employee,
Yeah,
right? There are parameters. Each contract has a different parameter of how many hours you need to put in for them and possibly when that needs to be available. So you have to be really organized
yeah.
in your contracts. However, I got up and went to Costa Rica for a month, right? And I have gone on the road with one of my besties, which for 10 days, right? Now I needed to make sure I was in the hotel and I made sure that I was able to schedule clients during this time and I had enough time to travel. So it does take some ebbing and moving and you need to plan ahead. I can't necessarily if someone says, "Hey, take Friday off, we're going to go, I don't know, float the river." I'm like, "No thanks, can't do it." Right? I have a full-time job. I have my own business,
Yeah,
right? And in through my business, I work for other companies. And so I have a responsibility and I can't just get up and go. Um,
that's beautiful. Will you tell us
yeah.
a little bit about your experience around the licensure and the testing and becoming board certified?
Yes, yes. So I would highly recommend it. When I went through, so I went through a series, right? Primal Health was my first certification. I then, at that point, they didn't have their level two master, right? When we went through, it wasn't there
Mhm.
just yet. So when I decided, hey, I want to be board certified because I'm a big picture thinker. And I was like, what's going to happen? Like health coaching's new
Yeah.
and where is this going to go and what's the pulse. I wanted to look 5, 10 years ahead and see where it was going to go. So I saw that they had just started the board certification and so I was like, I want to do this. And a lot of people were like, don't spend the money, you don't need to do it. And I said, you know what, I'm not doing it for that, I'm doing it for me. I want to be the best health coach in the United States that I can be, and that has served me. So I urge you all, once you're through this, is to go and get your board certification. Now, you've got to look at some of the things. Primal Health now has their level two, right? And they will prepare
The
you
ACE.
for boards. I
Mhm.
went from Primal Health, I did a lifestyle coaching with Czech Institute, and then I did precision nutrition level one and level two. And then, even on top of all that, y'all, then when I was sitting to study for my boards, because I had talked to enough people, I paid for a paid study group. Now,
Right.
if I would have never ever thought that I would have done this, because by that time you're like, whoa, three certifications? Like, come on, Kirsten, you should know everything you need to know. But here's the deal, there's so much information, you can't know it all. And so, what a
Yeah.
paid study group does for you is it gets you to laser focus on what you need and it keeps it down to week by week by week by week. And there
Okay.
is a lot of information on the boards. Remember, this is part of the medical examiners, right? It's part of the same branch, it's an arm of that. And it is the creme de la creme in the United States, right? For international, it's the International Federation of Coaching, right? IFC, which I'm also going to get my certification. I'm working for that as well because I eventually want to live outside the United States, right? I've been
Mhm.
looking at I want to live in Europe and Spain and part of this whole journey, I already knew that years ago that I like living outside the country and having new experiences, but I also needed to have a job while I was outside the country, right? So yes, I highly recommend it. Listen, the paid study group was like, I think I paid $240 for like 12 weeks, and it was worth every penny. Um,
Very well worth it.
there were
Good.
some Friday nights that, again, I wasn't a big studier in college, I'll be honest, right? I was used to in high school, I have good memory, and I was used to being able to pop it out. You can't do that in this one. So there were Friday nights that I would be in our own private study group within the study group, right?
Mhm.
Within the paid study group, six of us would pull off and we would just go through test questions on a Friday night. And I was on the East Coast and they were on the West Coast, most of them. And we all just got together and we just ran questions and talked and talked and talked. And when I got done with the board certification, I walked out and people were like, "How did you do?" And I was like, "I have no idea." Like, I had not a clue. Like, I was like, I could have aced it. I could have failed that miserably. I really didn't know because part of that test is out of four answers, it's multiple choice. Out of four answers, one is a definite no. That's the easy one. The other three are all plausible,
Oh,
right? It's just a matter of when in the conversation you're going to use certain techniques. So,
wow. That's
just to
really helpful.
yeah, just future forecasting with the board. So what's coming down the line for you to know with board certification also is this is an exciting time. So the VA hospital has did a test run of medical codes for coaching. They did that last year, and I think that it's coming down the line. They have, there's medical codes so that insurance can cover coaching, right? So this is happening right now. I think Congress is, I think they shot it down once last year, and that's normal. It takes a couple years, but I know, I know that it will happen because we have a very sick nation.
Yeah.
And in order for you to be part of taking insurance, if that's what you choose to do, right, and be able to use these codes, you have to be board certified.
Okay. Well, thank you. That's really helpful and meaningful for and I want to transition to another like perspective around corporate wellness. And
Mm,
before we do that, because I see that it's quite beneficial that we talk about corporate wellness as it is to being a contractor for different corporations,
yeah.
and how you are serving wellness through corporations. And I want to shift gears shortly, but before we do, Hannah is asking, how do you find your contracts? So your contracts for these companies that you're working with.
Yes, so I have a couple different ways. One is I work with an external company, right? My contract is with the company, and then they have corporate clients. Okay, so I am like the hired gun, so to speak, right? I am specifically hired to be the coach that goes into the companies. I also have my own where I pinpointed people I wanted to work with, companies I wanted to work with, and you have to approach them and you have to make a case of how can you help their employees. And really it gets down to knowing the pain points for the companies, right? You can't go in there boasting about you because they don't really
Right.
care. Companies are worried about the bottom dollar and how health coaching can help their bottom dollars. So do some research, right? If you want to do this. And it starts, and Tara Ann knows this as well, it starts with just getting comfortable giving master classes, free workshops, holding free workshops at your your yoga studio or at your church or at your mommy's group, right? So you start and you get the practice. You get your practice through doing these workshops, master classes, webinars, whatever you want to call them. Free sometimes, $10 here, $25 here. They're not about the money making at this moment. You're generating and you're getting the experience so that you can go to the company and say, oh, yeah, I've worked for this company and I've done this thing, I've done this workshop for this company and what was really important for there. And I can see how this parlays into your company, right? and you start to point out their pain points. You ask a lot of questions, right? You're there to serve the company. You got to remember that you're there to serve the company, not to tell the employees what you know. You're there to serve the company. And you serve the company by making healthy, happy employees.
Mhm.
That's where your wisdom comes in.
Right, because their pain points are more around absenteeism, when their
Sick
mental health
days.
is down.
Yep. Sick days, stress, right? A lot of sick, right? Sick days can cost companies thousands of dollars. If you can show how you might be able to save a company $120,000 a year just by helping get their company healthy, they're going to listen,
Mhm,
right? They're going to listen. You've got to remember also that companies with their insurance, they do get discounts for having some kind of corporate wellness. So why not be their corporate wellness however they
mhm,
want it? That may
mhm,
be coming in and doing private one-on-ones with their C-suite, so their upper management. It might be coming in and spending monthly workshops for their certain departments. Usually they want it certain departments, might be putting on webinars for the entire department that lives on a certain platform, right? Their wellness platform. It can be any and all the above. I've done
Will
it
you say
every
more
which
about
way.
that before? Yeah, will you say now, because I've done that too, where on Microsoft Teams, there was like
Yep.
a wellness board,
Hmm.
and they asked me to post articles a couple times a month and get engagement around like recipes and practices. And then like twice a month, we would meet for like a mental health break. And then I would do like one-on-ones with them quarterly. And it was great as long as the upper management was bought in. Like when there's,
Yes,
buy-in from everyone, then it can be helpful. As I noticed when the upper management got like, distracted by, other projects, doing other things, that it really impacted everybody. So that there's an interesting piece. And, I believe that this is a relationship business.
it
And
is.
for each, what I heard you were saying earlier around like just, showcasing your skill sets. And in that we get to, you run into CEOs at the library, at the gym, at the yoga studio, you start talking to them about their staffing and, what keeps them up at night. So there's like one-on-one, relationships, and then that can grow into possibilities with their company, is like one example of how people can like get their foot in the door. But even
Yep.
then, like it's a living, breathing entity that requires a lot of care and attention. Thanks for sharing. And tell us more,
Yeah.
Kristen.
Absolutely, it does. So, an example. So, I teach at four different areas in town, teach yoga. So, in the mornings, early mornings, right? So, I do that for many reasons. I love to teach. Yoga has saved me. It is stress relieving, right? It gets us into the parasympathetic, right? It's a mindfulness practice, okay? People that come to my class, I have a good following. So then you start to talk to them after class, or you mention it in class, like, or at the end, like, hey, if you ever want to go deeper into your health, if you are struggling with something, come see me. I'm a board certified health and wellness coach. I take private clients all the time. I do this all day long. So come see me, right? So from there, you can start generating. Then it's like, hey, my sister's really needing help. Would you have that conversation with them? And I'm always like, yes. In fact, why don't we make it a gift from you? Why don't you gift them a consult with me? See if they're open to it, right? Just see if they're open to it. You can say, hey, you can have a free session with her. Maybe they want it, maybe they don't. So, this is how I've decided to run my business as a private business. But what starts to happen is then they get a little bit of what coaching is, because a lot of people still don't know what coaching is, right? So you
Right.
give them a taste of what coaching is, and then you say, so what do you do in your business? Like, have you ever thought of having like any kind of like workshop or something for your business? Or like you start to ask a little bit deeper in, right? It's not probing, it's a relationship. I taught a yoga immersion out at the Whitewater Center. So we have the U.S. National Whitewater Center here in Charlotte, North Carolina, just out 20 minutes outside of town. To me, it's like adult camp. It's my favorite place. I was able to do a yoga immersion. I was with 21 people for 24 hours, right? I was able to take them through workshops. Well, they were from all over the US. So then when their company is like, hey, we need to have a health fair, they're like, I took from this one girl and I bet you she would want to do this. And then the invite comes. So you put yourself out there, you make sure that people know what you do. You give them a sample of what you do. You be authentically you, right? We're sharing information and you never know where it's going to lead. It goes from one thing to the next, one thing to the next, one thing to the next.
Well said. And it is, it's organic and there's focus and you can create connection and opportunity to be of service because I want to say it can be a longer game and you get to share this with your network. Linda is asking a great question, and I
Mm.
know that it's nuanced per client. However, she's asking, how do you set your price point for your coaching when you were pitching to a company?
Yeah, so I'm not going to share my full on price points, right? Because that is authentic to me. And that was a lot of time and energy and a lot of trial and error, right? So you've got to decide what you're willing to work for and where it's going to take you. I will say we all come into coaching thinking we're going to make a bunch of money, right? Oh yeah, I'm going to set it's, six. I will share what my private is, right? So my private at this point is 5,500 for 6 months and 10 grand for a year. And I have been at that price point for privates for I think 5 years. And I meet with them every other week. So bi-monthly, bi-weekly, bi-monthly. I can never remember which one that is. But twice a month, I meet with them. On a very special circumstance, I have a couple that do better meeting weekly. And I made that decision because I am the boss. So I decided I was going to work with them weekly. So you have to decide what you want to do. And it is, Tara Ann, it is much more of a long game, right? So you can say, like, if you're looking for one off and be like, yeah, I'll do this webinar for, $500, 250, 75, right? It really depends on what you're willing to work for. And when you're first starting out, you got to shove the ego out of the way because you need the experience, right? So if you get paid anything for the experience, you chalk that up as success. Not only are you getting experience, you can then have something to use the next time you talk to a corporate person, right? You say, oh, yeah, I did this webinar. They don't know if you got paid or how much you got paid there, right? They have no idea. You can do it for free because you don't know when that's going to lead to something else. So, again, coaching is very new and businesses know that they need this now. They are really seeing it. We are in an epidemic. After a pandemic, we are now in an epidemic and we've got a very sick nation and businesses are not being able to operate at their optimum because their employees aren't healthy. So again,
That's a really great point. And I think, pardon me, but I want to acknowledge that the employees aren't healthy. They're showing up sick, depressed, anxiety is at the highest it's ever been, depression is at the highest it's ever been across the country. And if I may just throw out an idea, because Kirsten, what you were just saying there about price points is so important. Like this, we get to create this, right? And so
yes.
Linda, an idea, and what has helped me before is it's different, it's nuanced based on the company, the employees, like Kirsten was saying, are you doing, one-on-ones with people in the company? Is it just the C-suite team? Like, are you doing, monthly webinars? Like you decide, and then you can figure out based on like how many hours, say a month, you think that you're going to be working, and you can create a best guess based on how you are pricing yourself for your one-on-one clients in your private practice. So,
Yeah.
and again, like Kirsten was saying, it may not be exact science and it may not be perfect yet, especially at the beginning, you're wanting to just get in there and do it because,
Yeah.
a lot of times, and Kirsten, I heard you say this earlier, I want to circle back, especially in corporate wellness. There might be people that are doing it because their boss told them to.
Oh yeah.
And that's a whole different ball of wax than even
Yeah.
somebody showing up through your contracted client that you work with, or somebody paying you and committing themselves to your services. So, how do
Yeah.
you how do you handle that? How do you apply that meet people where they are piece that I heard you talk about earlier
Yeah.
in the wellness setting of corporations?
Yeah, you have to just be open, right? So there's been some good situations and there've been some not so good situations, all right? So one situation I nulled the contract. I was like, this isn't working. And it was because of we were in a they stuck me in a glass room. So when you're trying to have these vulnerable conversations with people, right? A glass room where everybody can see them if they're in tears is not okay. It doesn't work. And I went to them a couple different times about it. They got me shower curtains, but that's still a little weird.
So this is a corporation.
This is a
You
client.
created a wellness program for them. You were
Yeah,
going in
I
there
was
and this
going
is where they said,
in.
here's where you can do it. Okay, thank you.
Yes, and it was beautiful because I thought, oh, I got a spot, but I would have much rather been like down a hallway in a closet that was more private. Um,
Yeah.
Clients had to walk through the human resources department because I was in the back of that, which was also a little weird. And I really think that that stunted me in it, right? And people are coming in and their boss is just down the hall, right? So people sometimes can be a little bit more reserved. So you want
Mhm.
to, when you're creating with a client, and that was a big lesson for me, right? I didn't have any of that in my contract. I had no idea. Now it is. I can share. I'll share a situation also that Tara Ann knows about. I had a client that kept showing up with his shirt off to private client sessions, right? It was really weird. I never thought that anybody would do that. It got weird. And I never thought that I would have to put that in my contract, but in my private client thing, it now says you need to show up professionally, you need to be clothed,
Mhm.
right? You need to take notes. Like you live and you learn, right? And you're gonna make mistakes and it's gonna get messy, but this is how you create something for you. So I wanted to go back to Linda. So Linda, the way I did it is I just went, okay, here's what I see could be four great scenarios in the corporate world,
Mhm.
right? And I spent time getting really clear what those would look like. Then I started putting numbers to it. And then I started feeling into it, knowing how many hours it may take. Right. And I've made mistakes, absolutely, where I was like, that was so not worth it. Like, I didn't charge enough for that, but this is how you learn. It's going to take some time. It does get messy. You've got to be okay with it, right? You've got to be okay with it. And sometimes it is. And a lot of times for me, it is I'm giving this. This is my gift to them is this so they can see how I work. And then I ask if they want more. And then I give them, all right, well, what would work best for you? You throw it back on them. What would work best for you? What are you looking for? And they'll go, well, I don't know. Tell me about your packages. Right? I hear that a lot. And I'm like, well, I do everything specific. So tell me about your pain points. And you just throw it right back on them. And then you get more information. You need data in order to even create the scenarios, right?
Yeah.
You need that data, you need that experience. So you really get to decide how you want to do it. And I say, you leverage families and friends, right? Even if you know someone who has a small business and they're your friend from church or from yoga or whatever, say, hey, I am working on my corporate program. Would you be open, totally free? Would you be open for me to come and do a workshop for your employees? Like, would that work for you? Right?
And it's totally okay to say no, like make sure that they have an easy out so that
Yeah.
there's no pressure. And you'd be
Yes.
surprised with people be like, wow, that would be amazing.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. You never know where it's going to lead to. And again, going back to what you said, it's all about relationships because you don't know. I've had people come around like a year later and they're like, did you remember me? I took a whatever, whatever. I'm now with this company. I don't know. You can check us out on LinkedIn, but we're looking for this person to be a speaker for us. And you say, yes,
Isn't
absolutely.
that great?
You say
Isn't that
yes
great?
first. Say yes first and then get the information, but be like, I would be honored. I would be honored.
Kirsten really expresses endurance. It's wonderful to hear how much you've created for yourself.
Well, you know, if you're going to own your own business, you have to have resiliency and
Yeah,
endurance, right?
yeah.
You really, really do. Someone was asking,
Niga's asking, there's a few questions, what,
yeah,
how would you present your workshops? Or are you just speaking, or is it workshops? Talk to them a little bit
yes.
around like yoga versus speaking, etc.
Yeah, so it can be anything. So I am at yoga places. I will teach inversion workshops, but I'll also teach how to work with your hormones. I will teach moving into menopause with grace and ease, right? There's a lot of yogis that wanted to hear that. You could do workshops in person, like you actually go to the place and you put a PowerPoint together and speak with it. You can do it on Zoom. So if they're a national company, I do a lot of webinars for national companies. So that means that there's people from all over the US that are tuning in for that webinar. Creating webinars, getting good at whatever platform you like. I personally use PowerPoint. Some people use Canvas. I don't know why I like PowerPoint these days. I think part of it is because lots of companies use it. So I'm a Mac user, but a lot of in corporate wellness, a lot of people use PCs, right? So you want
Right.
something that can
Translate.
be, yeah, exactly. So you don't want to, because I don't really, I like to send it to them and then they set it up on their projector because I am not a techie person. So I know enough on my side to get it to them and then they can set it up and I can move through my own slides. So most of the time it is interactive. I like to make things super interactive. I like to come in, give them a little bit about me, make a few jokes, right? You got to build that rapport and then say, let's get quiet. And people don't like to be quiet, right? That means they have to sit with themselves, and a lot of people aren't used to it. But what it
Mhm.
does is it gets them very aware. I always start with a moment of that, of a quiet, a moment of breath, right? And it allows them to kind of let the outside world go and get present with you. So then when they open their eyes, they're actually in it, they're engaged. And then asking thought provoking questions, right? There's all sorts of different games that you can come up with to engage with people. It depends on your audience. You got to read the room, right? You definitely have to
That's
read
a
the room.
really important piece because you can have the same, theme or topic that you might take to a few different corporations. And it's so important to, like you said, do your research, revise it to speak to the audience and build it, yeah, make it fit for them.
Yeah, ask questions because you want to be prepared. So, who's this group? What's the pain point? Who's the group? How would you like me to dress? Most of the time, I went with thinking I was always going to be in a power suit in corporate wellness, and that can just be super intimidating. No one's going to open up to that, right? So you got to really read. I was working with, construction workers, so like I'd come in like, yoga pants and some of my Doc Martin boots or whatever. I kept it very casual for them so that I was more approachable, right?
Mm.
You want to know your client and you want to be able to ebb and weave because you have to build the rapport. And in corporate wellness, a lot of times it might be one off coaching that you never see the person again, right? They're coming in, they have an issue, they want answers. You're not there to solve their problems, you're there to ask the questions that allow them to get to the best solution for them, right? So I had to let go of a lot of that because I like to work with people for long amounts of time. And so when I was like shotgun, you got 20 minutes, this person, and then you don't see them again for 2 months. And then all of a sudden they come back in and they're like, remember that issue? And you're like, yeah, all right. Taking good notes, right? You have to take really, really good notes.
And what's that been like? Like, how do will you share a little bit about like a company that you've gotten into? And it sounds like there's webinars, there's group things, are there one-on-ones? Like, where's it been? Like, where's your sweet spot been so far?
So I come from 20 years in television. So I worked in television as a host and as a journalist. And so Online webinars are very easy for me, and workshops are very easy for me. I'm used to presenting, and that is where some of my strengths come from.
Yeah.
For instance, yesterday I did a webinar for a group. It was more engaged. They were more of an engagement, like it was like a in-house bonding for a department, right? I didn't necessarily get all that information. That wasn't 100% clear. I kind of got it when I was on
Arrived.
Zoom and they had a wide picture of 50 people or whatever. And I was like, oh, they're all in a room with notebooks. Okay. So I very quickly adapted and made it much more engaged. And then they asked a lot of questions at the end. So that I like engagement. I like questions. A lot of times when I do webinars, I have them hold their questions till the end, and then I always leave 15 to 20 minutes. Always leave 15 to 20 minutes. Right now, there's so much noise out there on Dr. Google, as I like to call him,
Yeah.
and there's so much misinformation. And one of my biggest things as a health coach is reminding people it goes back down to the foundations. It doesn't matter if you're in a professional world or not, you still got to drink water. You still got
Yeah.
to get sleep. You can't supplement your way out of anything,
Mm-mm.
right? You've got to hit those foundations. You got to get out and exercise, right? Um, Workshops, and then speaking as a speaking engagement, I do mostly workshops and webinars, right? um, if someone wants something, in a smaller group, yeah, I've got a handful, because as I do webinars, I always hold my scripts and my PowerPoints and my things together, and so I have them, right? Let's work smarter, not harder. So you can reinvent them and you can call them different things, but the meat of your webinars are the same.
Fantastic. And Botany's asking, how much do you give for free in a workshop without giving all for free before you were given a paid contract? Great question.
Yeah, it's a really good question, and I have to say it's up to you. So there's two school of thoughts on this, right? So, and I've tried it all different ways. So one is don't give anything away for free. Always charge something, because if it's for free, people don't show up and they don't take it seriously, yada yada yada. Then there's the other side that is like you need to give things away for free so they know how to work and how you work. And because this is a relationship building career, right? You're of service. You want to show how you can be of service. Um, Giving things away for free, and I like to call it gifts, not for free. So, verbiage, complimentary, right? It's complimentary. I'm going to give you a gift or a complimentary session. I really would like to do this. No strings attached. I just want to do this for you. I feel like that would really help you understand what it's like working with me. Right. So I give a lot of consultations, yes, more free sessions. If I'm doing private clients, it's more free sessions. If it's working with corporations, then yeah, I'll give them a free webinar or a workshop. Absolutely. Absolutely. Now, it might start with, um, it depends how bold you are. You can say, yeah, I'll absolutely do that. But then I also get a complimentary one-on-one with you. Are you up for that? Right? Because if a boss is doing it for their group, he also needs to experience, because he's the one who's going to be paying you, he or she, right? Whoever is the head of the department, or they, I should say, he, she, or they, right?
Mhm.
That person is asking you to come in and do a free workshop for their employees, right? You can be as bold to say, but yes, and then I'd also like to gift you one so that you really know how I work on a one-on-one, because I think it's important for you to understand that I have both, that I can serve both, right? So you get to decide. There is no cut and dry. That is the beauty of this business, is you get to try all sorts of different ways and see what works. I will say, you at this moment, being a new coach, right? You want the experience, right?
Yeah.
You want the experience as you grow your workshops, as you find your strengths in your area of genius. You want the experience. And that was another reason why I also started working for other companies, because I had to pay the bills and it was too much stress on me to wonder where my next private client was in order to pay rent. I didn't like that. And it just didn't work for me. And I had bills to pay and I had some debt I had to pay off. And so I was like, okay, what's going to work for me? What worked for me is having a steady paycheck from somewhere while
Yeah.
I worked on my private business. And now I can say all of that has melded in and it worked for me. It was the way that I needed to go. And I'm glad I did
I'm so glad you did it. Look at you now.
it. Yeah, debt free.
And so Zega's asking, would you still offer a 12-week program for corporate clients, or is it based from meeting to meeting? And congratulations on being debt free. Sorry.
Yeah, right. Yes. It was a long haul, but there. Okay, Zyga or Zaga, that's a good question. So from a private standpoint, I only work with clients 6 months and a year. 3 months is just simply not enough in my experience. In my experience with my private clients, there's not enough time for them to see real change. And I'm about making sure that they see that. And it has worked for me. It was a hard decision to make because I did offer 3 months when I first started, but I started noticing around week 8, they would start ghosting, right? Because they weren't
Mhm.
getting the stuff done that they needed to get done, right? And so it wasn't working for me, and I was ending with people that weren't happy at the end of 3 months. And I want success. I want people to feel like they really got served and they got their value. And so I decided to make a big decision to go to 6 months. I do 3 months now for people who've worked with me before. I
Mhm.
call it a boost. And a lot of people come back, right? They
Yeah.
come back and they say, I need the boost. I'm like, all right, here we go. Right. And I have created that boost program only for my repeat clients. No one brand new comes in and gets that because it's just not enough time. And I'm very upfront about that. This is an
Mhm.
investment in you, and I see improvement happen. 6 months is where is at. And I currently have 3 clients that have been with me. This one's going on one of them's going on one, two, three, four. I think we're on our 5th contract right now because she's seeing enough. And then I'm like, what do you want to do? Do you want to go to this? Do you want to still keep doing this? And she's like, oh, no, we got to keep doing this. Right. But it takes time. Change takes time because remember, people are coming in at every stage of change, right? And they ebb and they weave. They're all in it and then self-sabotage. And then they're all in it. And then, so they go through that. Am I in an action step? Am I contemplating? Am I in pre-contemplation, right? So for corporate, it is more of a contract to do X, right? It's a contract to do that. And that's very specific upfront. So whether that is I'm doing a webinar once a month, whether that I'm coming in 1 day a week, 2 days a week, 3 days a week, whether I'm doing tele health coaching for them. So offering that I will do Zoom coaching with them, which is a different branch than actually working inside, right? Am I doing workshops for them? Do they want one workshop a week and C-suite private clients? So there's all different ways that you can set up corporate health coaching, right? Corporate wellness. You really get to
Excellent.
decide, but it's not usually on like a 12-week basis at all.
And so in that, I mean, it's inquiry because there's also a question around, apps like Coach Catalyst, Primal
Mm,
Pro that are 12-week bases. So do you have
mm.
any experience? What are your thoughts on that in the corporate space?
I I wanted to differentiate myself from other coaches out there, right? There's a lot of people that call themselves coaches that don't even have certifications. So, how do you differentiate and how do you create your personal program? Um, I started with a website, still have the website, right? And constantly re-upping it. I think it's important to have that presence. I did have a scheduling software at one point, and I was paying through the nose for it, and I realized no one schedules like that. You
Mm,
schedule like that for a haircut and a manicure, but for coaching, it just didn't work. I wanted to have that interaction with them of setting it up. So I got rid of my scheduling software. I don't use it at all. If people want to work with me, they send me an email and then I send them an email and then we set something up. I send them some stuff to fill out to make sure they're serious and to see where their head's at. Um, and then we set up that consultation may lead into a free session, or it may not, depending on how serious I feel they're actually being. Because again, you're looking to serve people, and you're also not going to waste your time with people that are just jerking your chain. I've done that too, right? And it's a lesson learned, right? And
Yeah.
so I started deciding that I do have the right to say, I don't know if this is going to work for you. I have actually fired clients. Like you're
What's
not
that been like?
um the first one was hard, right?
Yeah.
Because you're saying no to money. That was hard, right?
Mhm.
But there's also a level of worth. And what do we work in? We work in coaching and making sure that people feel the worth, right? So you have to look at holding healthy boundaries and saying, no, this isn't working for me. If they don't show up, I'm on for 5 minutes. If they don't show up, it's considered canceled. It's considered a no-show, and they forfeit that. Now, I've been lenient, and every time I'm lenient, it seems to go the wrong way. So I've just become much more strict on that. And it's like, it's okay, but I'm sorry, that's just forfeited, right?
Mhm.
If you're working and we're meeting every week and you miss the next week. So I have clients that actually now, um, how would I say this? They're somewhat on probation. So I'm like, if our meeting's at 10, if you don't confirm by 9, I'm considering it a no-show, because
Mm.
I've sat on Zoom way too long and I've wasted time, right? I prep for the session, I show up, they don't show up, they don't call, and they're like, "Oh, I slept in," or whatever. It's like I'm done with that on this person. And so I just said, "Yeah, if I don't hear from you, it's goner." And
Do
there'll
you
be
hear
weeks.
this, community? Kirsten is showing up in her professional self. She is the owner of her life, her business. She's building these relationships and has clarified. And it's not that it didn't come through hard work and trial and
Oh,
error, but I
yeah.
hear a woman that is grounded and clear in what she will and won't do, and is open-minded and willing to get on out there and like, get her hands dirty, and has like confidence to say, no, thank you. I will create that elsewhere if it's not working.
And it takes time. It takes time. There, I cried a lot. Like, I screwed up. I shouldn't have said no. I need to pay, like it's gonna get messy. And if you can just allow yourself to get messy, because everything's a lesson,
Yeah.
right? Everything's a lesson. And it truly it has come full circle. It has benefited me, that I really feel strongly in my business and what I can provide. And I love helping other coaches. I mean, like, wisdom. I'm trying to give you as much wisdom as I can in this short time.
Well, and we have just a few minutes, and there are a few questions coming up around niche. Do you have a niche in one-to-one clients or corporate clients? And then another question similar, also interested in how your niche shows up within a corporate setting.
Yeah, so what was my I can't even remember my first niche. I think it was so my first business I think was called, what was it? Warrior Woman? I think it was
Yeah.
called Warrior Woman, right? And I had like a logo with a woman with a bow and arrow, like, yeah, warrior woman. And I was going after only female clients. And that worked good. That worked well for like 2 or 3. That was when I was still doing like 3 month
Mhm.
programs too. And then all of a sudden I started getting a bunch of guy clients. And I was like, okay, what's happening? Right. But to me, it was the universe just said, maybe no, I think you need to help both. And so I kind of let that go. I can say that I specialize. So instead of a niche, I will serve and coach anyone, right? Because there's all sorts of people out there that really need it. And part of being an experienced coach is being able to adapt to that. But I'm here to tell you, most people need those foundations, right? And they need some compassion. They need to be seen and heard, right? So I specialize in menopause, right, for women, because I went through menopause very early at 43, and it's what led me to become a health coach. So sometimes those gifts aren't in pretty packages. Sometimes it's really the dark night of the soul that brings you to your passion, purpose, and to your next step.
Mm, thank you, Kirsten. And
You're
I
welcome.
imagine that that shows up in the corporate setting by you creating safe space for women to acknowledge like changes that their body are presenting and how that translates in the workplace.
Yes, absolutely. Because in any kind of transition, and every woman's going to go through the transition in the world, every woman is, right? So stress,
Yeah.
right? Stress takes its toll when you're in that transition more than anything. And so in a corporate world, you start transitioning, your body's not doing what you want, your digestive system doesn't feel good, your emotions are all through the roof, right? That
Mm,
shows up in your professional world as you're supposed to be some power woman, right? And how to give yourself grace,
right.
right? And then get some sleep. Learn how to say no. Set own hours. Close the door. Do a meditation. Lock your door so no one can get in your office. Do a meditation. Right. So it absolutely comes from my own experience. My wisdom comes from my own experience. And I'm very open. I'm very transparent with my clients because they need to know that I'm not up here like expert telling them all the stuff,
Right.
that I still work with my own inner child. I still work with my inner critic, right? And the imposter syndrome. We all have that in some point. It's a constant lesson.
Mm. Well, this has been an amazing power hour with you today,
Hmm.
Kirsten.
Thank you
Thanks
so
for
much for
dropping your
inviting me.
dose, your wisdom. This has been playful, fun. We've got jokes happening in the chat. Zaga wants her niche to be emotional clarity for everybody.
Oh,
I love
yes.
that.
Yes. Yes. I think that's a good one, right? But you got to be sneaky on that one. You got to call it something else and then dive in because no one wants, everybody goes emotions. Oh, no, no.
Right.
Everybody's
So
scared of that.
how might our community stay in touch with you? Where can we find you?
Oh, yeah.
If we want to learn more from you, where do we go?
Yeah, so thank you. So I am not a big social media person. I have an Instagram account. It's kirstengumcoaching.com. I'm on LinkedIn. I have a website, kirstengumcoaching.com or Live Forward Coaching. So I go by both of them. Still working that one out. To tell you, I fell in love with Live Forward Coaching and I felt like that felt more corporate. And then I don't know, this side is building, but I go by both of them. You can always reach out to me through my website. It's assist at Kirsten Gum Coaching. I'm always open to helping other coaches figure things out. Absolutely am. Um, I'm still on the fence about social media. I know that there's all sorts of people that say that they get clients from it. In my experience, it was a lot of content and a lot of ego got involved and not many clients came out of it. And so I had to look at my energy and where I was leaking energy and what was serving me and what wasn't serving me. And so I stepped away. I had a digital detox and I'm still kind of digital detoxing. But I mean, I still get into Facebook, and people still find me through Facebook.
That's great. Kirsten, it's wonderful that you've shared your story with us, and
Thank
there's
you
going to be
so
lots of
much.
ideas. Everybody's saying thank you, great job, super
You're so
impressive. This has
welcome.
been wonderful.
You're so
And
welcome.
we'll catch the replay. We can listen to this over and over again, and this has been so great. So have a beautiful summertime, Kirsten. We'll see you all soon.
Thank you. You
Aloha.
too. Thank you, everybody. Bye.